Good morning, sir. Good morning.
Please sit down. Your name?
Sir, my name is Jyoti Yadav.
You are from Gurgaon.
Yes, sir.
The city is called Gurugram and the district is still called Gurgaon?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Now, you have been a BA Honours in Macroeconomic and Macroeconomic Development Theory, and you are basically an economist.
Yes.
And you graduated from the very prestigious Sri Ram College of Commerce.
Yes.
Now, this is your fifth attempt.
Yes, sir.
Have you been called for an interview before this?
Sir, this is my first interview.
First time.
Yes.
First time you were called for. And I see that your first choice is the IAS,
Yes, sir.
followed by the Indian Revenue Service, IT, Income Tax.
Yes, sir.
And then the Police Service.
Yes, sir.
Now, I have two questions for you, but those two questions will also have sub-questions. The first question is, with your qualifications earned from a highly prestigious institution, you could follow a career in economics, in business, much more intellectually satisfied, apart from being materially in terms of return income that you could earn. In that context, why is it that you want to join the services, government services, which, as you know, are not the best paid of services in the country? That's the first question. The second question is, given that you want to join government service, suppose you've convinced me that yes, you're joining for very good reasons, why is it that you opted for the IAS first? And a sub-question to that, why did the Revenue Service and the Income Tax Department, which then comes second? Because the scope of work of the IAS and the IRS IT are quite different. So what is it that attracts you to these two as your first preference? So there are two questions, and with each with two parts.
Yes, sir.
Please.
So, answering the first question, choosing government services over economics, as you said, that I could have had a good career there. I would say my father had a very important role in encouraging me after I graduated. That is one reason. Secondly, at a personal level, I did feel very motivated by the opportunities that the government services offers in terms of the variety of experience and the opportunities in different sectors, let's say health, education. So, answering the second question where you asked me.
You have not answered my first question fully. You have said motivation.
Yes, sir.
By its diversity.
Yes.
But motivation, just simply knowing that there's something diverse, that in itself is not a motivation.
Yes.
Was it something that you'd studied? Some example that you'd seen? Something that you'd seen happen? Something that you'd seen not happen? What was it? What had motivated you?
So, yes, at a personal level, I said that my father definitely.
I understood that.
Yes, sir.
Now, when you came to the second part of that, you said that you were motivated by the idea that there was such a diversity of things, therefore.
Yes, sir. Again, coming back to the first part, I know that I have mentioned it, but I would like to elaborate on that part. That the passion and the motivation with which my dad talked about the service, that there is so much potential. Then I started reading about the service and I found.
And was your father also in the service?
So he is not. But I think perhaps because he didn't have the opportunities to do it himself, he provided us with those opportunities, and that was one motivation that I felt that I have to do it. Secondly, I also like to teach, so I've had the opportunity I had the opportunity of visiting government schools. So there were instances where I got more convinced, and at a personal level, sir, I also feel that the opportunity to serve different sections of the society, it is not doing good for them only. It is helping you also because it adds a meaning to your life as well. So these are the reasons, I would say.
Now go on to the second question.
Yes, sir, where you asked that why IAS and why then it is followed by IRS. So IAS, as I said, it is now the diversity, because you're not restricted to any one domain, and the kind of impact you can have in society as part of the government. So that is one reason. And why it is followed by IRS IT is from my graduation, because somehow I feel perhaps I'll be able to contribute more because I have a background in economics. That has motivated me to take IRS as a second option.
Okay. Now, again, you have told me that your economic background has helped you to decide on income tax as your second background, as your second choice. But coming back again to the IAS, what is it that you hope to achieve, and for whom? Self-fulfillment?
Yes.
Your father to feel proud of you? What you hope to achieve by serving in the IAS?
Yes, sir.
What is your objective? Getting into the IAS can't be an end in itself, surely.
Definitely, sir. As you said, a number of factors. Primarily, as I said about my father once. Second, I would say that the self-fulfillment I am going to get by being able to do something for, let's say, the women of the country, because as a woman, I feel, as a woman also, and being able to do something for the women and the children, as I said, I like to teach. So I have certain thoughts about, let's say, the education sector. So if I can contribute in these two domains.
But you may not be in the education department at all.
Yes, that's true, but it's about the opportunity. If I get it, I would definitely love to, but I'm open to all the opportunities I get. But these are two.
I see that you have had good education in the sense you went to one of the really good schools, get public school, and then you could also get into SRCC, which is very difficult for students to get into. And economics has been your favorite subject. My first question is, you must have glanced to the newspapers today. I know you couldn't have gone into in-depth, but what is your view? How does this budget, which was presented yesterday, in what way do you see it? Is it a positive? Is it a progressive budget, or is it what it's in the same wine in the different bottle, old wine in new bottle?
So, my understanding of the budget, it is aiming at increasing the disposable income of the people and thereby increasing the consumption, which was witnessing a slowdown. So that can be one way of propelling the economy. In the agriculture sector, there are certain measures which are suggested. Something that has stayed in my mind is the Kisan Rail that can enhance the availability of perishable goods in time, and the reforms in the tax slabs. So I think these are good measures, and then they have the potential of transforming of reviving the economy. Reviving the economy.
There is always a controversy regarding direct taxation and indirect taxation, and with the new taxation which we have, there is a lot of emphasis on indirect taxation, to the extent that it is said that if we have good revenue from indirect taxation, the government may consider stopping direct taxation altogether. What do you think about this?
So, of late, a shortfall has been witnessed in the indirect taxation, and there is a lot of controversy going about it. However, I feel as you said, that there might be a possibility of stopping the direct taxes altogether. I don't think that will be possible anytime soon because personal tax, corporate tax, these are also a major contributor to government revenues.
My third question is that this budget, which has been there, is it going to really help the farmers? Because since long we have been hearing from all the political parties that the budgets have not been very farmer friendly. So what do you feel that is this budget farmer friendly or not?
So, a number of measures have been announced. For instance, 15 lakh crore credit, one was that, and warehousing, as I said, Kisan Rail. So these have very high potential in my understanding. What remains to be seen is whether they are implemented or not. And thereby, and there were other measures also which I'm unable to recall at the moment. That there was a 16-point strategy for this sector, if I'm not wrong. So it does have potential.
You mentioned reviving the economy. Is the economy in bad shape? Why does it require revival?
So it is mostly because of the statistics available of the July to September quarter, which says that the GDP growth was 4.5%. And that is
that bad? Is that bad, given growth rates in other countries across the world?
Yes, sir. It's not. It's bad to the extent because our expectations were higher, and now we are revising our estimates. But in comparison to other countries, it is better. But since we have plans of surviving on a high rate, it is bad in that context.
But there has been criticism that the rate that has been announced, the official rate, is not the actual rate. What do you have to say on that comment? That it is in some way a doctored rate of growth as compared to the earlier assessments of the manner of assessing the rate of growth.
Yes, sir. There is a lot of, I would say, talk about the data, and a progressive move has been made in yesterday's budget. An institute of official statistics, I'm not sure of the exact name, has been announced so that more credibility of data can be ensured.
No, but what about that?
This one.
More credibility, okay, that's in the future. What do you say of this figure of 4.5, which is the question that I've asked? Is this an authentic figure? Because there has been criticism that it is not an authentic figure.
So, with my limited understanding, I don't think I can take a stand with certainty on this because what I've read is through pages.
So there is a possibility that it is not authentic?
So it's not possible, but I've read very little about it, so I will not be able to comment.
Please.
Okay. Jyoti, you've done your graduation in economics, right? And then you decided to take sociology as your optional. So, what difference do you find between economics and sociology when you read the both?
Economics is limited to the economic sphere of the society, whereas in sociology we are studying the whole society. So we can say that it has a broader scope.
So you're saying that sociology will have a broader scope, but sociology does not take into account economics, does it?
It does.
And then economics take into account sociology as well, welfare economics?
Yes. True.
So then the scope remains the same? Economics getting into sociology and sociology getting into economics?
Of late the two are converging because both understanding and studying both together allows to have a holistic and a better perspective and better understanding of society and hence better policy making also.
Alright. Now there was this thinker, Imai Durkheim. He said that society is sui generis, it exists before anything else, and therefore the markets are evolved out of society. So society gives rise to market, whereas economists like Adam Smith would say that's the market that determines the society we are living in. So what is your take? Who's right? Is it the society that gives rise to market, or is it the market that decides the nature of society?
Can I take a minute to think? Ma'am, I would say these are different perspectives of different thinkers. And in social sciences is different from natural science in the sense a cause and effect relationship cannot be established. So,
But Durkheim said cause and effect relation can be established. He gave a science for society.
yes, ma'am, but his studies also criticized for various reasons. I'm saying that there are extraneous variables at any given point. Like he used this theory of this cause and effect relationship established in his study of suicide. So coming back to the question, ma'am, what I meant is that these are two different perspectives of two different thinkers. Giving primacy to one that society came first or the market came first would not be right on my part. Both influence each other of late. A certain degree of primacy is given to market, that is true and that cannot be denied.
Can you give an example how both try to influence each other, society and market? In present Indian context, you can take an example.
Of how they influence each other. Taking example from yesterday's budget, the fact that it is becoming a prime subject of discussion everywhere signifies the importance of market, the economy in society at large. So that can be one example of how prominent market has become in a society.
And the other way around?
And how society influences economy. I would say it's, let's say dowry. It's a societal concept, but how it interlinkages, how it interacts with economy.
Okay.
So that is one manifestation.
You've heard about Me Too movement, right?
Yes, ma'am.
We don't get to hear too much about it of lately. It seems as if it's fizzled out. Why do you think that has happened? Why a very strong movement like Me Too has fizzled out, especially in India?
Ma'am, it is also to do with the nature of the movement because it was social media driven, and social media by its very nature tends to highlight issues very instantly and then they die down very instantly. However, I would say that the movement still continues in the sense that the cases are still, those who filed cases and investigation is still going on.
Okay. Just a last question. You've mentioned Hatha Yoga. What other types of yogas are there?
There is Raj Yoga, there is Ashtanga Yoga.
Are there a definite number to it?
No, ma'am.
And what are the phases in yoga? I believe there are certain steps to yoga, a certain procedure. You begin with one thing and then you end with.
I will not be able to tell you the exact phase because I'm having slight difficulty in understanding that. But yes, in yoga, the sequence plays a very important role. That you start by lying down and then you do a certain number of postures. Then you focus on your back
And do you do it on daily basis?
not alternatives.
Alternatives. Okay. Thank you.
Are you comfortable with that topic of the relationship between society and economics?
Not very comfortable, sir, but I can say.
Okay. Can you comment something about the type of economics we have in the society in the West Asia?
West Asia,
Yeah.
type of economics we have.
The society and the relationship between society and economics in West Asian countries. Lisa was talking about that the direct taxes and all should be removed altogether and all, so they don't have direct tax.
I'm not aware of this side they have or not.
What's the mother discipline of economics?
Mother discipline of economics.
Yeah.
I don't know, sir.
Okay, it's okay. You were talking about that the yesterday's budget was focusing upon increasing the consumption, and the economic survey was talking about increasing the investment. But both are mutually exclusive to each other. So how the one section of the government is saying increasing the investment and the other part of the government is saying increasing the consumption. What's the comment on this?
So the two are linked. So when I said that the budget tries to increase the consumption, it is through giving people more personal disposable income. if they have more income, they'll be able to spend more. And if they're saving it, then perhaps more money would be available with the banking sector and investments can be made. So, and the economic survey is trying to increase investment by focusing on wealth creators, by having a positive attitude towards the wealth creators. So,
Okay, one more question I want to ask. What is the present status of tax collection in India? What is the rough percentage of direct taxes, indirect taxes, CIT, PIT? Any rough approximate values? Yeah,
so I will not be able to say with certainty. That's
it's
Thank you.
May I come in, please?
Please come in.
Thank you, sir.
Now, let me start with the positive points, and then I'll go on to the severe negative points. Not necessarily very severe, but they might sound severe. So far as positive points is concerned, you have a pleasant personality, a nice person to talk to. One enjoys talking to you. You mustn't look tense in your, which you sometimes did. You didn't generally look tense. This is a conversation. It's not like an examination that you're looking out here, kind of thing. So don't give that impression. It's a conversation. You're exchanging ideas.
Yes.
Now, the first part, when you started, unfortunately, you gave the impression that you had not given it much thought as to why you wanted to join. You probably have, but the impression that you gave was that you had not given it much thought. Because you kept reverting to the fact that it was an inspiration and your motivation was because your father wanted it. Well, that can be a starting point. Because your father wanted it, that got you thinking on the idea. But when you thought over it, and then what are the reasons for thinking over it? Basically, I would advise you that when you're facing an interview board like this, particularly for an organization which is interviewing you for entry to the public service, mind you, you're entering the public service. That is what it is. So public and service must find some sort of a mention in your answers.
Yes, sir.
Service to daddy is fine, but that can only be a starting point. Service to the public has to be the theme. And in answer to my question, as an economist, the best way that you can apply your knowledge, your skill in economics is by serving the public. It's a simple answer.
Yes.
And you don't even, then the person may ask for further details. It should not be difficult to say that how an economist serves the public. But that must be the theme of your interview, your commitment to service of the public. And that didn't come out, unfortunately, in any of your answers to the first two questions. Even when you were talking of IRS and IS compare, you talked about the diversity, the challenges, everything, and I said that, and I put the question directly to you, is it because it will help your father to be proud or you will be self-satisfied? No, never did you go to the point that, no, I will be satisfied with the knowledge that I'm serving the public, or even the father would be satisfied that my daughter has been of service to the public. That must be your theme. Now, again, you see, you talked about women and children. You can emphasize that. I would like to serve the public, especially women and children. But you're not joining the service only to serve women and children.
Yes.
I admit that you didn't say that you're only going there to serve women and children, but that should be a part of the larger whole. And in that context, you can mention that in our country, women are subjected to a number of disabilities which are unjust and uncalled for, and I will work. That is fine. But they must all spin off that first theme which was missing altogether. There is, therefore, it gave the impression that you had not given it much thought. On the other question, on the other issue where I would say that your answer was commendable, In one case, where you didn't know the answer, you said so. When you need to think over it, you said, "Give me a minute." Very good. And also, when I asked you that, is it authentic? Your answer was good. Your answer was good because you didn't either say yes or no to it, which is what I would expect you to answer in an interview. Okay? You don't want to say that, well, the government figures are somewhat doubtful for these reasons. You gave the answer, and then you said that you would not like to actually judge on its authenticity. That's fine. Then also your discussion on the question of society and economy, what came first, that was also good. Because you were expressing thoughtfulness, that you were thinking about. Now, I, as an interviewer, would like to see if you're a person who thinks. Because while you're joining the service, I want a person who thinks. I don't want an automaton who will just do what they're told. I don't want a person who does not have any creativity. I want a person who is capable of thinking. Therefore, in my conclusion, when you're in your first answers, was that you had not given it any thought. At the end, I thought that you did, because the answer of these answers. So just keep in mind that whenever you are answering, and the point that you said in between, give me a moment to think. I need a person who thinks. And that is the impression. You may be a thinker, but you may be giving me the impression that you got all your answers pat and you're not going to think about the matter. That is not what I want. You have to give me the impression that you think about things, think about issues. Because what you've been hired for by government is to think issues out in which are going to be applied by government. When government is coming up with a policy, to determine that policy, I require somebody to think it out. And tell me that this way you do it this way, or you do it that way. Okay?
Yes, sir.
I have 3 points. First of all, you should be a little bit more confident when facing the interview mode. I don't want you to be overconfident, but you should be more confident. You have achieved things in life, right? You have reached this level. So when you face the interview board, give that impression that you are comfortable with yourself. Secondly, you must prepare very well for those particular subjects which you have written. If it is yoga or if it is economics, because these are considered to be your forte. So most of the questions will come to that. Thirdly, the current affairs, whichever will be there, because it's not a written exam that the paper is at 6 months ago. As on today, yesterday, I asked you a question which
must be very well versed in current affairs.
Immediate affairs, right? And last but not the least, when you said that I want to think, and I think that was appreciable, and you took time to think, and but be more confident in what you say concerning your subjects. Like if it was about society and economics, you should be very clear, right? So I think you'll do well. Just brush up yourself a little bit.
When is your interview?
25th of Feb, sir.
Jyoti, I just stick to the question that I had asked about economics and sociology. Whenever you're comparing two elements, you cannot de-emphasize or demean the other one while explaining one, right? So दोनों की अपनी importance है. So while economics is doing such thing, sociology is doing such thing, you must be well aware because you have background in both.
Yes,
So questions for comparison will come up. Secondly, how society is influencing economy and economy is influencing society. Come up with an example, a decent one, so that you don't get a surprise at the real interview. And don't get unnerved by difficult questions because you've read both the subjects, you know the answer, you have taken time to think, and in that time do not feel nervous while thinking also. For example, you talked something about consumption. and you talked about how people will save. Now, I think sir did not, because of the paucity of time, but when you save more, then you consume less, which means that investment, if you're trying to increase investment, then you're taking it away from consumption. You're falling in that trap, right? So be very careful of what you were saying. If there is consumption, there is investment, then you probably would have heard about the virtuous cycle, investment and consumption. Try to visualize that first, because I know you know the cycle, right? So take that cycle and kind of think about it, right? Other than that, I think you've done very well. Just brush up current affairs, like sir have said, and about sociology and economy, both of them are subjects that are very, very important in today's time. So,
Yeah, the mother discipline of economics is philosophy. And about the direct taxes and all this thing, I think you should have good knowledge of economics. Try to read about economics and all, share of direct taxes, indirect taxes. Very much there in economics survey, budget, everywhere we have this. And when I asked the question about consumption and investment, could have used exports dimension, which is a major dimension of the government. That if we have more savings, then the consumption is going to decrease. And when consumption decreases, we require a new market who is going to consume it, and that will be the exports. So we need to focus upon exports dimension. Then about the peculiar economics model of West Asia, I think we need to study. Okay. They don't have a direct taxes. Altogether, they don't have any direct taxes. Recently, they have started including after the decrease in relevance of petrodollars and all. So try to read all these different economic models in the world we have. Otherwise, I think so. Other things are good.
Yeah, I would suggest that you be, as your interview approaches, be very careful about reading the newspapers every day. Earmark, benchmark for in your own mind those issues, because you've been an economics graduate, those issues which concern economics, and you'll have lots of them because the budget has just been announced. The pros and cons of the budget are going to be discussed over the next few weeks, and you're going to get questions on those very pros and cons, particularly those raised by the public and the media and all that. So what I would suggest is, of course, you keep yourself well versed on that, but also discuss the matter with friends. Ask them, because they'll have different points of view, so you will then be exposed to different kinds of thinking, not only your own kind of thinking, and you can then come to your own conclusion after giving it thought of your own. And the idea being that you can, while talking to them, let that also be a kind of rehearsal. It can be, you can advise your friends to talk to and then give you an assessment of how you responded. Did you respond convincingly? Did you respond in a manner that you looked hesitant? Because how you think you're responding may not always be how you're perceived by the other person. So as the was pointed out to you, at certain points you looked as though your confidence was not there. I also felt that sometimes you had the appearance that you're answering questions, not in conversation. But the interview is, as I mentioned to you, it's a conversation. Okay, so this you can actually rehearse when you're talking to friends. Okay.
If I may add one more point. Having been a student of Freedom College of Commerce is an advantage as well as a disadvantage, because this is one of the leading institutions. So it will be expected from you that there will be more questions asked on economics from you, and you would be expected to give good answers, high-level great answers, not just, so prepare for this.
Good answer means well reasoned.
Well reasoned.
Well reasoned out. Good does not necessarily mean that this is right or wrong. I agree, and therefore that's good, not quite. But well reasoned. It's good if it's well reasoned.
and keep a smile wherever possible.
No, she was tense, so she was.
I think because of the initial two
Will you
questions.
be training then for?
Yeah, we will have one-to-one
Because I
sessions
think
also.
with a bit of training,
She's really good in the class. I don't know what happened today. In the initial 1 or 2 questions, IAS versus IAS.
तैयारी करके हो जाएगा.
Anyway, I think she is good material for selection.
No, because as I said, you have a pleasant personality and it comes across. That pleasant personality comes across, and that is the one first major hurdle. Because you don't want the board to start thinking, ye kaun sa aa gaya.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.